existing scientific data.
Now, this will allow scientists to create a complete picture of the Martian atmosphere and its layers and better understand why it turned from a lush, vibrant planet into a cold, barren desert. Well, earlier today, I stepped into virtual space to get a detailed look at exactly how it works.
2020, a significant date for the UAE and a major milestone in the Emirates space race. The date that the UAE launched the Hope probe into deep space in the first ever Arab mission to Mars, the culmination of a 6-year effort from around 200 Emirati engineers, scientists and researchers. Now, whilst the objective of the Mars mission is to provide a detailed understanding of the climate and weather conditions of the red planet, the probe is a foundation for a much bigger goal: building a human settlement on Mars within the next 100 years. At around the size of a car, the Hope probe was launched in the early hours on board an H-2A rocket from Takashima Spaceport in Japan, beginning its journey of close to 500 million kilometres. The Hope probe separated from the launcher around an hour after liftoff, a critical moment in the entire launch process, timed precisely right for the Earth's closest alignment with Mars, a process which takes place only every 2 years. Now, as it settled its trajectory into space, the Hope probe deployed its solar panels and its sensors to locate the sun, manoeuvring to direct the panels towards the sun to begin charging the onboard battery. With the power switched on, the first signals from the Hope probe were detected by the NASA Deep Space Network ground station in Spain. As the unmanned spacecraft continued towards Mars, it used star tracking equipment to determine its location and direction, and ultimately to keep it right on track. 2 days after its launch, the Hope probe entered deep space, capturing and relaying the very first image of its final destination, Mars. It had already travelled 1 million kilometres from Earth, moving at a speed of around 120,000 kilometres per hour. On August the 11th, the Hope probe performed its first trajectory correction manoeuvre, firing its thrusters to ensure it was positioned on the best path to Mars, a critical moment as the first TCM performed since separating from the launcher. Now, during this time, the mission team conducted safety tests for around 45 days to ensure that the probe's instruments and systems were working perfectly and efficiently on board. On August the 24th, the Hope probe shared a second image of Mars. The photo showed that Hope had passed Saturn and Jupiter, with only Mars still ahead, marking 100 kilometres in its journey to the red planet, the equivalent of around 130 trips from Earth to the Moon. On August the 28th, the second trajectory correction manoeuvres were performed to further adjust its position towards Mars. It was now more than 200 kilometres into its journey and almost at the halfway mark. 2.5 months later, on November the 8th, the Hope probe successfully performed its third trajectory manoeuvre, setting the date of arrival to the orbit for February the 9th, 2021 at 7:42 p.m. local time. Now, during this phase, the team used the probe's 3 goes too fast or too slow, it could crash on Mars or miss its orbit entirely. But if all goes to plan, tonight will make the UAE go down in history as only the 5th country in the world to ever reach the red planet. Now, after entering Mars's orbit, the information that the probe's 3 special instruments collects over the next 2 years will help scientists begin to understand what the climate and weather is like here at different layers of the Martian atmosphere and create the first global picture of how the Martian atmosphere changes not only during the day but during the entire seasons as well. Now, researchers also plan to study why Mars's atmosphere is losing hydrogen and oxygen and the reasons behind the planet's drastic climate change. It's hoped this will help scientists better understand and be able to answer important environmental questions about our own planet as well. Several dozen probes have set off for Mars since the 1960s. Many never made it that far or failed to land. Only India has managed to enter the planet's orbit in a first attempt. Now, the UAE's mission is particularly unique, with an endeavour that has never been pursued by any other nation. Whilst other probes have orbited between the north and south poles of Mars, the HOPE probe orbits around Mars in an elliptical manner, completing a loop around the planet's equator every 55 hours. Now, this allows it to get as close as 20,000 kilometres to the Martian planet, the smallest ever distance reached by the probe to the surface of Mars. Its unusual elliptical orbit will allow it to observe the entire planet across both night and day in each cycle. Now, it's this orbit that will allow the UAE to complete the first ever planet-wide 24/7 picture of Mars's atmosphere and weather. Tonight, the UAE will lead the Arab world to new frontiers in deep space for the first time in history, acting as a catalyst to further accelerate the development of the education and technology sectors. Now, with the HOPE program, of Arab Emirates, tonight's milestone serves as a lasting reminder that for the UAE, not even the sky is the limit.
That looked like fun.
It was a lot of fun. I haven't done something like that before.
No, you haven't spent 7 minutes on Mars before. I'm so surprised.
That's on the calendar next week.
Okay, our next guest has been involved in more than half a dozen NASA experiments. We're going to chat to him in a moment, though, because first we're going to throw to the break. Remember, if you want to get involved, you can join us at Dubai One TV. Going to hold that briefing.
Well, coming up after this break, the audit
of the iron rose.
Is it really fast?
No.
Do you eat it on Sundays?
Hey!
Hold on, guys.
Daddy, be careful on the road.
Jerry?
Get back in your car right now! Come on, we're getting out of here.
We've lost the East Coast.
Honey?
China's dark.
What is this?
We don't know.
World War Z. Tonight, 10 p.m. UAE, 6 p.m. GMT. On the Dubai One. This movie is brought to you by important information about COVID-19 vaccination. Can I stop wearing the mask after receiving the COVID-19 vaccination? You must keep wearing a mask and continue to take precautionary measures to prevent COVID-19. Is vaccination safe for people with chronic diseases? Yes, vaccination is safe and effective, and it is recommended for people with chronic diseases because they are among the groups most vulnerable to complications of COVID-19. Can the date of the second dose of vaccination be changed to another day? We recommend that you adhere to the vaccination procedures and dates to ensure that you acquire the required level of immunity. Note, the second dose of the vaccination will be administered 21 days after receiving the first dose. Is it safe to combine more than one type of COVID-19 vaccination? No, it is not safe to receive different types of vaccines.
Welcome back. You are watching Dubai One TV's live special coverage of the Emirates mission to Mars. This evening, we're going to be speaking to the biggest experts all over the world, from NASA and beyond, to
from
builds on all the missions that have come before it. He is a vital member of the science team for the UAE Mars mission, and he joins us now live from Colorado. Thank you so much for joining us today. Now, you've been an integral part of the project for 6 years. How are you doing right now? The anticipation?
It's exciting and at the same time very nerve-wracking because of the risk of going into orbit.
It is exciting, Bruce, and there is only, as we know, a 50% chance of success. What can we expect, though, if it does go to plan?
Well, first of all, that 50% is based on historical success rates. I think that this team has done everything that it can to be able to go into orbit successfully, and I'm very optimistic.
Now, we've heard there are 4 potential outcomes. We could either miss Mars entirely, we could potentially crash into Mars, we could do a bit of a loop around Mars, or the one we're all hoping for, it will be a successful plan. Take us through some of the potential options tonight.
Well, it's really hard to predict because everything is going according to plan right now. We're about 20 minutes away from the rocket motor burn to put us into orbit. And it's very hard to know what might go wrong. Anything that we think can go wrong has been addressed. But there are so many things. We've never gone into orbit around Mars with this spacecraft, even though we've tested the engines, we've tested the sequence. If something does go wrong, the team is standing by ready and do their best to recover from it.
Now, of course, we are all hoping that everything goes according to plan.
Different more about how the Earth works. We're also trying to get at questions related to the habitability of Mars by microbes, whether there might be life there. And answering that question is really, in some sense, one of the overarching questions for Mars. Can we learn whether there's life there? What is that going to tell us about the origin of life here on Earth, or about the distribution of life throughout the galaxy?
Now, the information that HOPE gathers will also be shared with the world for free to around 200 research centres. That seems quite unusual, but it's been an important part of the entire mission.
Well, that's one of the things that excites me. From the very beginning, the goal was not just to do a publicity stunt of getting to Mars, but to be able to contribute to the international scientific effort on Mars. And that's been an incredibly deep component of the effort so far. As a scientist working on Mars climate data, I'm very much looking forward to this data and to integrating it with everything else we know about Mars. No one probe can answer every question, but we're sending a lot of spacecraft to Mars, and that lets us bring a lot of data together to address some of the fundamental questions.
Now, of course, Bruce, 2 other probes will arrive at Mars this month, one tomorrow and one on the 18th. What can we expect from them? You know, how different will the data that they collect be from the HOPE probe?
They're all very different. The Chinese probe is the one that arrives tomorrow. They'll go into orbit, and they also carry a rover that will go down to the surface. The orbiter will be studying the atmosphere and the upper atmosphere in ways similar to what MAVEN is doing. The rover is going to analyze the surface chemistry and take images of the surface. In a couple of weeks, the United States is landing its Perseverance rover. That's a car-size rover that is going to be looking at possible evidence for life on Mars, and we'll be collecting samples that we can bring back from Mars to the Earth to study. So they're all very different from each other, yet very complementary, each one doing a different part, addressing a different part of the overall problem of understanding Mars.
And I think having this progress, whichever country it comes from, and being able to share and collaborate this information is so important. Of course, here in the UAE, it's hoped that the information we collect is really going to help set the stage in terms of establishing a human settlement on Mars. The UAE leaders have said they plan to do it within 100 years. How will this mission form a part of that?
There are so many hazards and so many risks associated with sending humans to Mars. Everything we know about the Mars environment helps us. By learning about the atmosphere and the surface, it helps get rid of those risks so we know what we're facing. Equally importantly, by understanding some of the issues about the Mars environment, it lets us frame the questions that we want to address when we do send humans. Is there life on Mars, or was there ever life on Mars? And why or why not?
Now, I have to say,
I've been passion devoted to this mission, not just from the engineers and scientists working in the Mohammed bin Rashid Science Center, but all the way up what we call the food chain to the senior politicians, the senior leaders in the country. Everybody is enthusiastic, and the goals of the program are not just to learn about Mars, but to elevate the Arab world scientifically and to support the youth of the country to demonstrate what we can do, what the United Arab Emirates can do. It's a combination of the science and the passion and the political goals, the social and societal goals, really set the Emirates Mars mission apart from most other Mars missions.
Bruce Jakosky, thank you so much for joining us, giving up your precious time all the way from the USA. Really appreciate it. Fahad, how do you respond when you hear Bruce talking in such sort of glowing terms about the experience of working with the Emirates? It is a young team, but they're very talented.
Makes us all proud. And I think, as Bruce mentioned, it's really coming from the top, right? It's coming from the leadership, and this is what really drives this country forward and has the youth so passionate about everything they do.
And I think that's something we're hoping to see a lot more of, aren't we? I know one of the aims of this mission is, of course, to get information about Mars, but also really to stimulate the economy, make it more of a knowledge-based economy. Fahad, if you can sit tight, a few more questions for you. However, our special reporter, Jan Shahayeb, is down on location. He is at the Burj Plaza. We'll get across to him now. He's got a very special guest with him this evening. We're just hearing we're having a little bit of a signal delay. So, Fahad, I want to ask you about how wonderful it is to be able to get such great feedback. What was it like collaborating with some of the big teams from NASA or from Europe as well?
Well, I think it's just been a huge opportunity for the team. You know, it's 200 UAE nationals have had the opportunity. They've traveled to the US, they've worked in the labs there, worked among experts, scientists, researchers, people who have done this before. And so it's nothing, you know, it's nothing short but amazing, really, as an opportunity for them now to come and have put together the Emirates Mars mission and to show really where it is today.
Lots of guests here on this show, lots of guests down with Jad at the Burj Plaza. We'll be catching up with him in just a moment, but one of the lucky things that we've had on this program, in fact, this whole experience, is the number of people that have been working on it that are so talented, and they want to share that story because they want to excite the next generation, the people watching at home, and the younger generation as well. And I think that's one of the key messages we talked about last time. Yeah. Young people have been infused by this, and we're seeing an increase in the the STEM subjects, the science subjects, aren't we?
Yes, I mean, if you go back to 1976, that was the year when His Highness Sheikh Zayed Al Nahyan, God bless his soul, first met with the Apollo 17 astronauts here in the UAE with NASA, and it was an exciting moment where they actually brought a rock from the moon with them. And that was a dream, right? The UAE was 5 years old at the time, and we are here today realizing Sheikh Zayed's dream of actually going out into space. And so you can imagine the excitement about that. And now moving forward, right? 2117, right? 2117 Mars mission. That's when we hope to be there. That's when we hope to have humanity there. And if nobody else does it until then, we will definitely do it in honor of our leadership today.
Well, I believe that we can hand over to Jad now. He's down at Burj Plaza and he's getting some of the big interviews down there, talking with some of the top people down there to find out what's been going out and what the latest situation is as well. So over to you, Jad.
All right. Yes, I'm still right here at Burj Plaza, right in front of Burj Khalifa, and really our hearts are beating. We're all extremely excited. And with me right now is Dr. Eric Xing, and he's the president of the Mohammed bin Zayed University of Artificial Intelligence. How are you today and how are you feeling?
Thank you very much. I'm very excited to watch this amazing event. Yes, congratulations to the Arab world and to UAE for achieving this amazing goal.
Congratulations to all of us all around the world. Really, this is something to really be proud of. Yeah, so I know that the Hope probe, upon its successful arrival to, hopefully, to Mars's orbit, is going to collect a lot of data. How is this going to influence or change the way we see science, and how is it going to change our future, possibly?
You know, Mars to the human being on Earth is an unknown. Use of
between Earth and Mars, right?
Exactly. You know, we don't know whether Mars is our future or our past, right? So
what do we learn, like, from maybe the challenges that faced Mars? How can we fix maybe or find solutions for the challenges that we face here on Earth? And what is this message that's going to be delivered for the youth and the new generation?
Well, I think Mars provides us a very good living example for how to build a ecosystem and how to build an environment that humans can thrive and survive and thrive, and also maybe build the future generations. And I believe all this data will be providing us a lot of knowledge to understand how geology, how atmosphere, how environment is changing in light of many of the changes and the other interactions between the universe and also the ecosystem, solar system.
What's the next step after doing all of this and after gathering all of this information? Do you have any insights or anything that in the near future we might be able to explore?
In near future, I think we're going to collect a lot of information to improve, our experience and our knowledge about the space. But in the long run, I was looking forward to learn more about this planet so that we can move there. And, I wouldn't use the word colonize, but explore and expand, our living system and our environment.
Thank you so much for being with us, and hopefully we'll hear from you soon as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So, 6 years ago we watched the movie The Martian, and it was like a dream. Maybe it was a sci-fi movie, but now it's right here in the UAE. The future is right here and right now. I'll go back to you guys in the studio right now, and I'll keep you posted if I have more interviews and with any more valuable information. So back to you guys.
Thank you, Jad. We're going to be crossing back and forth to him this evening throughout these celebrations and excitement live down at Burj Plaza. Well, if you want to get involved in the conversation on social media, make sure you tweet us. We are at Dubai One TV. Don't forget to use the hashtag Arabs to Mars. Now, the UAE has joined the world's leading nations in space research and exploration, opening up opportunities to form and accelerate the local financial landscape.
Dubai One's business editor Greg Fairley explains just what the country is doing to turn itself into a sustainable knowledge-based economy and why that's more important than ever before.
Good evening. The UAE is fast becoming a major player in the space exploration sector. This has substantial scope for science and also, importantly, for business. This mission reflects a broader aim here in the Emirates to drive innovation in science and technology and continue to diversify the local economy. The probe serves as a catalyst for accelerating the advancement towards a knowledge-based economy that retains world-class researchers to work in scientific and technological fields. What is a knowledge-based economy and how can it catapult the UAE into the next era of growth? The UAE's Vision 2021 calls for the UAE to be a nation that is united in knowledge and where innovation also plays a key part. Getting the next generation of talent ready for a new age jobs market is essential for the continued success and progress of the UAE's economy. The investment-friendly environment here and ease of doing business continues to attract and anchor knowledge. Dr. Nasser Saidi is a former chief
for the space economy also translate into knowledge you're going to use for the digital economy and expanding the digital economy. So with time, I think what it means is that the UAE will invest more and more into STEM, into science, technology, engineering, and medicine activities. When you think further ahead, you want to think of space as a launching pad for space exploration into the moon and elsewhere. But I think also what's very important is to get young Emiratis engaged in this. And I think this is what's happening now, already happened with the Mars probe. We just need to widen the scope of the activities. And it has to start with education above all. That's where you build it.
The Hope probe, as officials point out, shapes a globally competitive economy that has a mission to find real solutions to the challenges we are going through today and those that will undoubtedly present themselves in the future. It prioritizes the diversification and resilience of the UAE economy's resources based on science and technology. With this year being the 50th anniversary of the UAE's foundation, the probe to Mars leads the path to further diversity of the economy, easing dependence on oil and gas. The UAE is one of the most attractive destinations globally for foreign talent and investment. With this important mission to the Red Planet, the country continues to embrace science and knowledge as we move into a new era of entrepreneurship, innovation and prosperity. Now, back to you.
That was Greg Fairley, our business presenter for Emirates News. Well, it's a really interesting time. It's about 7:30. In about 12 minutes, the Hope probe will begin burning about 50% of its fuel. Now, that is necessary in order to slow down enough to be able to enter Mars's orbit. If they go too fast, too slow, they could crash or miss the orbit entirely. It really is a pivotal moment of the entire mission. We're going to have more on that very subject for you a little bit later this evening. In a moment, we're going to be taking a break, so please keep watching Dubai One's special live coverage of the Emirates mission to Mars. Don't go anywhere.
He's 35 years old. He still lives at home. That is not normal.
I've lived upstairs since I was 3. It's gonna take a stick of dynamite to get me out of my parents' house.
I am a professional motivator. For many young men, self-esteem develops during a romantic relationship. So I simulate one.
Can we have a drink tonight?
I can have your son moved out of this house by June 15th.
Hallelujah!
For starters, you could make life a little more difficult for him.
Your bathroom needs cleaning. When you're done with the rubber gloves, turn them inside out.
Something's wrong with your mom.
Can I have a minute alone with him? Oh, model crisis day is so critical. Totally bonds us. What's his real name anyway?
I don't know. I just clean their teeth and chop off their...
I had a nice time.
I did too.
Of the latest breaking news and government and local markets and the latest updates of Dubai Expo. TNT on Dubai One.
You are watching Dubai One TV's special live coverage of the Emirates Mars. If you want to join us on social media, we are at Dubai One TV. Make sure you use the hashtag Arabs to Mars.
Many aspects. slices of the atmosphere. When you're far away, you can see everything at the same morning, noon, the afternoon. Before that, sometimes only see some mission has always seen